It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the program. We've got Mr. Dan Borum with us. Dan's with the Patriots, VAC 746. You can search him on Facebook. They're on a mission to educate the people of Arkansas about your gun rights, your natural human rights of self-defense. Dan, welcome back, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Paul Harrell. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well, sir. I want to get your thoughts on a few things. Number one,
yes, sir.
I want to play, Joe, if you can pull up the Facebook page that I have here. This is a video that's circulating on Facebook. This is from the Salt Bowl, and I want to play this. I want people to hear it. I want people to see it who are watching at conduitnews.com or Facebook or YouTube. Just go ahead and listen to this, and then we'll get your thoughts. Okay, so Dan Borum, have you seen that video? What are your thoughts?
I have seen the video, Paul, and right off the bat, it just, to be honest, it creates anger with me. And that's because the government has created this pandemonium. And I say that because you see all across the nation, because of these random mass shootings, people are just, they see it on the mainstream news. They see it all across news on conservative and mainstream. And because of that, people are naturally just on the edge. And all it takes is just one little pop, and regardless of what it is, and people just go into panic mode. And there's no sense in this happening. This is exactly what a gun-free zone creates. It creates instant victims. And basically what it leaves most people is just running and hiding is their only choice. Basically, when you view that video, the Salt Bowl video, it looks like a bunch of nervous cattle on just picked to stampede. And I just wonder how many people were hurt, not because of a gun being fired, or whether it was a stun gun or somebody hollered gun and caused pandemonium, but how many people were actually hurt during the people trying to reach escape routes and to get in a safe zone? That's what I'm wondering.
When I look at the video, we're playing it on loop here.
Yes, sir.
What I see is I see this is how the government officials in their ivory towers, this is how they see us.
Well, absolutely.
They are comfortable with this. I mean, these people are running for their lives. Now, we know that there wasn't a gun, or the police say there wasn't a gun. People thought they heard a gunshot. There's some,
right,
dispute over whether a taser sounds like a gun or whatever, or a stun gun. The bottom line is these people are sitting ducks, and if it's up to some of our leaders, they would have us this way. They would have us so dependent on government that all we can do is take our little girl and our little kids, take them by the hand, and try to get to safety instead of having the right to defend yourself.
That's absolutely correct, but let me ask this. How many of our government officials, let's just say our governor, would he ever be faced with this situation if he had been attending the Salt Bowl? Absolutely not. He would have had armed security around him. Why can't I be that armed security around my own family? Why can't I put them to lay them down between the bleachers and to try to get them in a safe place, and let me stand over them and guard them? And here's the deal. Eliminate the gun-free zones. It is so simple to me, Paul. Eliminate the gun-free zone. Citizens would then be liable for their own actions if they took irresponsible action, if they took action that preserved lives for others. They would be responsible for their own actions. And most people are not going to just pull their weapon out and just start randomly shooting in the air if something like this happened. they're going to be scanning with their eyes. They're going to be listening. They're going to be trying to see where the danger is coming from and then respond in a correct manner. Whereas our government officials want us to believe that people would just, without any training whatsoever, they would just start pulling their weapons out and just shooting in the midst of everyone and hurting more people. That's nothing could be further from the truth. People who responsibly carry weapons to defend themselves and to protect their families are going to responsibly scan the area. They're going to be listening, using all of their natural, God-given instinct to see where the danger is coming from and then respond in a correct manner. Now, if we did not have gun-free zones, I guarantee you this stuff would not be happening. How many people, and I realize in the Salt Bowl there wasn't an actual shooter, but in the minds of the people, the fear was real. That's clearly demonstrated in the video that you just played.
Yeah.
But in the cases across the country where there actually was a shooter, whether it was in a school, whether it was in a place where they were playing video games and this man became angry and started shooting. I mean, these only happen in gun-free zones. It never happens in places where the citizenry is armed.
Yep.
Why can they not get that through their thick skulls, Paul?
I don't know. It really is, in a lot of ways, a disconnect from reality. Or people are paralyzed by the fear of something bad happening with a gun. But stuff bad is happening with guns all the time, and people are defenseless. And I just think, and I've thought before, and I think this is a good opportunity to rehash just briefly what happened in 2017 with the enhanced carry law. Say what you want about the NRA. I was very disappointed in the NRA and how they supported the enhanced carry law. But if you talk to them, or at least when I talk to them, the only reason they went along with the gutted Charlie Collins bill and the Bob Ballinger supported enhanced carry bill was because of the provision that was going to allow people to carry in places like football stadiums. To avoid this very thing. I think that's certainly a story. I mean, that is a story in this in the context of this happened in Arkansas, and this, and I know it was a high school game and everything else, but what were people saying? People said, well, the NCAA, the SEC, and so ASA, while taking the NRA credit, then immediately had Jonathan Dismang come up and said, I'm working on a bill to gut the very thing that got the NRA on board with the enhanced carry garbage in the first place. And
right.
What was it about? Well, we don't want people to be carrying a gun at a Razorback football game. That's a terrible idea. Or there could be drinking involved and people are drunk, and then they're going to have a gun. Emotional fans. Well, here's your other alternative. I've been to football games. I look around and I see. I thought many times I'm a sitting duck. I'm unarmed. Right. I'm a sitting duck. This would be like fish in a barrel.
Absolutely, and tell me, how would the CHCL or the enhanced really address this problem? It's not going to address the problem at all. It restricts. What it does is it restricts the citizenry. How many people? Let's just say there were 20,000. I don't know what the number was at the Salt Bowl. Let's just say there were 20,000 people there. How many out of the 20,000 would have been able to have went through the enhanced carry licensing training and been able to have passed the shooting requirements, the testing requirements, and then the money to first of all have the CHCL and then to have the additional money to have the enhanced carry? It limits your citizenry, and it creates an elite class of citizens in the society in which we live, which is constitutionally wrong. I am sick and tired of our legislators legislating away our rights at our expense, at the expense of our families. And it's time for us to stand up and resist against this type of legislation. And there are ways to do that if people would just be willing to educate themselves in how.
how long before you're going to need an enhanced carry license to even own a gun?
I hate to even think of that, Paul, but I wouldn't doubt if there is already those ideas and talk that's taking place in the Marble Palace.
Well, I mean, they're talking about red flag laws. I mean, that's just one. I mean, it's one step closer to something like that. I mean, you're gonna. What do you think about the governor being open to red flag laws?
I'm glad you brought that up because the patriots of Act 746, some of the admins I know that we are looking into other states that have dealt with red flag legislation, how that they have handled it, and also groups that are unwilling to compromise, gun groups that are unwilling to compromise of working with them, and I think there's going to be some interesting things coming up in the very near future from the patriots of Act 746, and I just invite everyone who may not be a member to join our page, to start educating themselves and researching the law for themselves and see some great things that we have coming up in the very near future.
I think that's a good idea. I was talking to you, via text earlier in the week, and you were talking about how we've got to be able to resist,
Absolutely.
against the power-hungry, a righteous resistance. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, Paul, the thing is, we all know that power is intoxicating. I don't care who you are. When you have a taste of power, it is intoxicating. Anyone can be drunken with it. And not only is it intoxicating, but it is toxic to the public. And when me being a preacher, and I like to refer back to the Bible, and I've done a lot of study concerning the Pharisees. Now, the Pharisees were a group of people. They were a group of Jews, Hebrew men, who refused to allow themselves to be Hellenized under the Grecian Empire that Alexander the Great created. And they became known as the separated ones. They clung to their Hebrew history. They would not allow the Greek idea to influence them, and they became known as Pharisees. Pharisees became very legalistic. Stephen, we know the man Stephen, he addressed them and he gave them their history from the time of Abraham all the way up to the present time, just shortly after Christ was crucified and risen again and returned back to the Father. He gave them their history, and he told them in the very end of telling them their history, he said, "You are stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears." And what does that mean? He says you're stubborn, you refuse to listen, and you're hard-hearted. And I was thinking, man, that so describes so many of the ones who we have elected to represent us in this republic. They have become very stubborn, they have become very hard-hearted, and they have become hard of hearing. They refuse to listen to we the people, and they refuse to listen to the final arbiter in any situation, which is the Constitution. The Constitution, my friend, is the final arbiter. It is not the Supreme Court of the United States. It is the Constitution. And we, the people, have got to be like Stephen and be willing to stand up and speak the truth, regardless of what the outcome may be. We all know what Stephen's outcome was. He was stoned. They hated him because he told them the truth. They hated his guts. Not only that, these were supposed to be Hebrew of the Hebrews, Pharisees, and he was a Grecian Jew. He had a Greek name. Who was he to tell them? But anyway, we know that he was stoned, and while he was being stoned, he prayed for them, and he asked God not to lay this into their account. What a man. And at the same time, there was this man named Saul of Tarsus that was standing there holding the clothes of the ones that was stoning him, and it changed his life. And I want to tell you something. If we will start standing up and telling the truth and being vocal, get out of this apathetic mindset, we can start changing the lives of other people. We may not change the lives of the masses, but we can change the lives of individuals one at a time. And who knows what that individual may take off and do to help the society in which we live and bringing them back to conservative values.
Dan Borum, it's very, very well said. I like the I certainly like the comparison of Pharisees in terms of they were the politicians of their day.
That is correct. They had a lot of influence, even living under the Roman Empire. They had a lot of political influence, and they were power hungry. They knew. Many of them knew. We know this because of Nicodemus, who came to Jesus by night. Many of them knew that Jesus probably and more than likely was the Messiah that they had been waiting for, but they were so drunk with their own power, they were willing to crucify him rather than to humble themselves to him. Amazing. That's what power does to people who cannot handle it.
Dan Borum, I really appreciate it with the Patriots of Act 746. It's always a thrill to have you on, sir.
Paul, thank you for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
All righty. You have a great day. Folks, it's Patriots of Act 746. Search for them on Facebook. The Patriots of Act 746 ask to be a member of their group as they work to educate people one individual at a time about your human right to self-defense inside the state of Arkansas. We've got to take a break.